y'all. Happy Friday. It's me, Nicoletta, with Juliana's Geckos. I'm super excited to be back on here. It's been way too long since I've done a YouTube video, and I apologize. I have terrible allergies, and hopefully my eyes won't flare up during this. But I've got my iced coffee. This morning, I was not able to get up and get in here early enough to have my morning cup of coffee with you guys. So I've been out doing farm chores and things like that, and now I'm back in and have a little bit of extra time to chat with you guys. Like I said, it's been a while, primarily because I've been busy, but also because I just haven't wanted to be on a YouTube or on a video, but I'm long overdue and I want to continue connecting with you guys through these videos, and I have lots of fun things coming up that I want to share. So today there's not any specific topic. Instead, this is more of an update video just so you can get an idea of where I'm at and where I'm headed for the rest of the year. With that being said, just got back from Flora Fauna Conference a few weeks ago. That was amazing. I loved it. I had a blast, and I love seeing people that I don't get to see very often, and it's a great way to network and get to know breeders and see animals, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good time if you can ever make it out there. But now that that's over, I've had a little more specific time to kind of rewire my brain, get back to routine, and yeah, so a couple things I want to talk through today. First off, I want to talk about scatter scale and where Dan and I are at with that. I want to just tell you why I'm excited about my Pastel project, and then just kind of a fun update on my life in general. And so first off, let's talk through scatter scale. So I know a few videos back I had said that I would come on here and really tell Dan and I's side of the story and give everyone the information and the nitty-gritty of our research on soft scale and where it ended up. And after I did some praying and thinking, I realized that some of it is the information or the things that we've gone through or things that people have said or put us through, and all of that. If I were to air all that dirty laundry, it will just further cause more drama, which I feel like drama has been kind of at bay with that whole situation. So I don't want to stir anything new up. But instead, I want to talk you through kind of a little bit of why we landed where we did and where we're planning to go with it without disrespecting anybody in the process of that. So to give you a little bit of background, if you haven't read my soft scale research, I highly recommend it. It's on my website and Dan's, and read it in order. Soft scale research part 1 and then part 2, and it will break down our original work, which we put out there last October, so it's almost been a year, which is crazy to me. And then we did a part 2 earlier this year, kind of just talking through some of the issues at hand with the soft scale gene and renaming it, and maybe just some hypothesis of what Dan and I are seeing where it might be something that needs to be disconnected. And with all of that being said, once we put that part 2 out, there was a little bit, rather not a little bit, but significant backlash in a few areas from certain people throwing me under the bus, putting words into my mouth, saying that I said soft scale isn't a gene, and multiple things that were just kind of put out there. And that's totally fine. You know, rumors happen all the time, but I never once said that soft scale wasn't a gene. Instead, we were offering another perspective for people who were not able to let go of the look that they associate with the soft scale gene. After a huge arm wrestle and just like pretty intense conversations, that's kind of all I'll say about it, with Anthony Caponetto himself, he has asked us to completely disassociate our findings with the soft scale gene, which unfortunately I disagree with. I think that regardless of what we land on, you know, soft scale was the gene that I invested in and that I saw something in and that I wanted to work with. And based off of the definitions that I could find regarding that gene being an incomplete dominant mutation and all of the information both on Caponetto's website and Little Monster's website, I dug into that. And that's what caused me to start looking farther into the gene. So for me to disassociate my research with that gene doesn't make sense in my mind. And I will forever be grateful for the soft scale research because I've learned a lot, and we're continuing to unpack the gene that we believe is kind of like what's going to create the next level of animals. So we are not going to remove any of our soft scale research. Instead, there is still so much confusion regarding soft scale, and with Caponetto asking us to basically change it, and he's now associating what we discovered as our scatter scale gene with his hairy lines, which is great. And hopefully he's seeing that connect and, you know, promoting that the same way that we've discovered it if he wants to align with our research. On his website, he also mentions that his hairy lines have been called scatter scale, and none of that was come to fruition until he read our research papers, which was awesome. So moving forward from that, I and Dan, myself and Dan, have decided to completely disassociate our personal reference of the mutation that we are working with from soft scale. So for example, no longer will I call anything soft scale or super soft scale. I will refer to scatter scale, either het scatter scale, homozygous scatter scale, for the specific gene mutation that we proved out recessively at the moment that creates the spacing and the proliferation of the secondary scales in between the primary scales on these animals. Now, there's even more that Dan and I have been doing, and more information that we want to put out there regarding our findings from this last season and this year. And it's all very exciting stuff. I mean, this gene is changing the animals, and it's for the better. And I think there's so many opportunities to take this, you know, and add it into your current collection to elevate your projects. Now, will everyone agree with me? Not necessarily, but that's what I'm passionate about, and I want to be able to give the people that follow me and trust in me for their knowledge the correct information about the gene specifically. So we are taking the soft scale name out of it, and we're going to just go forward with het scatter scale and scatter scale. Now, no, nobody needs to do that. This is something that we're doing to eliminate confusion when we speak to people about the gene that we discovered and proved out of the soft scale line animals that we invested in. So I think this will hopefully help us to communicate better regarding our research and what we're seeing in these animals and how we're, you know, utilizing this gene in our collections without continuing the confusion regarding the soft scale gene itself. So my recommendation to you going forward for information on the soft scale gene would be to talk to Anthony Caponetto himself. His website will note that he never agreed to scaled spacing being an identifier of the gene, even though that was something directly on his website, and not necessarily something he agreed with, which that's totally fine. I just don't know how I was, or Dan was supposed to know that when we started our research, and that being an incomplete dominant gene mutation, soft scale, being soft scale and super soft scale, and still being labeled such in collections and on sales marketing platforms and things like that, that's all well and good, but I no longer can tell you the difference between a soft scale and a super soft scale, or a soft scale from a normal, based off of the representation of it remaining an incomplete dominant gene mutation and not having anything to do with the scale spacing like Anthony Caponetto has asked. And that's totally fine. So instead, excitingly enough, we're going to move forward with scatter scale and define that explicitly for you guys so that there is no confusion as to what the gene is, how it acts as far as passing on to offspring, and what it could potentially do within your collection. So with that being said, we're taking the drama and we're just going to redirect it into educating people specifically on what we know regarding this gene. We do not know everything. We never have professed to. We are excited and passionate about it, but there's still a lot to be discovered, and that's what makes it the most exciting to me. That is, if we can eliminate the confusion amongst people, we can actually start to unpack the true potential of this gene itself. And that makes me excited. I think that there's a lot of potential to, break through certain things utilizing this gene in my collection and whoever else wants to work with it. And I am an open book as far as letting people know what we've learned, and we are continuing to learn every single day. We're growing every single day. Dan and I just had a meeting last week about just really, having our minds blown this season, watching offspring grow up from last year, and it's phenomenal, especially since we've been isolating this gene more specifically based off of our findings, and it's exciting, and we're very excited about it. And the whole point is just to make better quality animals and beautiful animals, and that's really all there is to it. Is nothing else but that. And we are working on part 3, but first what will happen is we are gonna basically put out a explicit definition of what scatter scale is, so that it's very clear and to the point as far as the gene goes, and then unravel the things that we're seeing it do specifically with color, pattern, texture of the skin, structure, and things like that. That will be in our part 3, and it's going to ever evolve. Like, we'll be continuing the process of exploring this gene, and then unpacking how it expresses when it's combined with other mutations like lily white and cappuccino, all these different things that you can stack and put together. And then not even just that, but like polymorphic traits where we're looking at patterns and colors and stacking of certain things or eliminating certain things. And I think that will be really exciting, and that's what we're excited to continue unpacking and working through. So next up, we'll have that definition out to you guys probably in the next week or two. I'm putting that out there, Dan, so we can get this finished and on our sites, which will be really good. And then from there on, you can say what you want to say about the gene. You can call it scatter scale, you can call it nothing, you can completely ignore it and not even acknowledge the work. You can keep using soft scale. I just would recommend when you're selling an animal as soft scale or super soft scale that you at least know what you're selling people, or at least a definition that you're going off of, because outside of that, it just becomes a marketing ploy that people are utilizing to upsell their animals. And I challenge you guys to ask and to think about soft scale and super soft scale if you work with it. The same question we asked, and it's like, how is it defined? And without a clear definition, it's very challenging to continue working through it in my collection from a scientific standpoint. And I love science, and that's kind of the foundation of who I am and how I operate through my collection itself. And I think it's all exciting. I have no ill will towards anybody. No disrespect. Everybody is doing their best to maintain, their own findings and processes, and that's great. I think that we all need to have space to do that, and I think that it's, the more the merrier. I love when people are researching their own things, and it doesn't have to be like a brand new thing, but it could be picking apart something that people have already defined before. I think it's important that we all encourage each other to do that, because we don't know everything, and science is evolving, and these animals are evolving, and different mutations are popping up, and then different combinations. I mean, the combinations is the hardest part of looking at crested gecko genetics, because there's so many things that have been combined that without unpacking it and backing up, you really truly you kind of have to start from scratch, and that's really tough to do. But it's exciting and fun. So it's whatever you want to do within your collection, how you want to utilize that information. I'm excited about scatter scale. I will not upsell my animals based off of whether they're scatter scale or not. I have decided that my pricing will be based off of what I would pay for that animal and what I think that animal is worth as a whole from what you can see. So what you see is what you get on a price. And I think that that will be beneficial going forward. It already has been for me to kind of eliminate the stigma of marking all these different genes as part of my, my pricing on animals, which I did in the past. So I think that is important for me as well. So if you guys have any questions on that, you can obviously comment on this or send me a personal DM. And I'd love to chat with you more about it and, get your input too. Like I said, I like having great conversations with people. So feel free to ask questions or give feedback where you feel is necessary. Obviously, I just ask that you do it in a respectful way because we're all adults and we all have things going on, and the stress of passive aggressive comments are just, it's not very fun. And I prefer not to interact that way. So anyways, let's move on from scatter scale, which has been exciting to talk about. And I wanted to bring up one of my most favorite projects from this year and last year that I'm seeing come to fruition finally. And it's so exciting to me. And that is my project Pastel. It is not a new line of animals. It's a combination of genes that are creating a look that I am calling my project Pastel. And it is so important to me to nail this, because if I can nail this, I feel like I can open up opportunities for a lot of different ways to expand on this project. And a few things that go into it are color, of course, but not only pattern color and base color, but also the animal's eye color. So there's multiple different shades of eye color that I am categorizing and trying to isolate within this project Pastel, and that has been a blast, just figuring that out and bringing in this watercolor effect on animals to where you see on their pattern and their base that it's a stacking of pastel-like colors that continues to just fill in layers. So you're seeing different variants of a single color. You're seeing those colors morph together, and you're basically taking away this appearance of one or two colors like you see in a bicolor or a tricolor, 3 colors, and almost as if you're like dyeing Easter eggs. This is where Pastel came from. And because like all I can imagine when I think about this project and how it makes sense in my mind to explain to people, because it's something I see, maybe not necessarily what other people see, is if you were to take an Easter egg and dip it in dye, and then you took it and you dip it in another color on another level of the egg, and then you do it again, and you have this effect of like this, stacking of colors that gives it incredible dimension. And then, the other like effect I think of is like if you take watercolors and you start stacking colors. Now, like I don't want to muddy everything up, but instead it's like an art piece of taking the color and mixing multiple colors together so we can get this watercolor egg dyeing effect, hence Project Pastel. And then when you bring the eye color into that, it just makes these colors pop. And to me, it's one of my most exciting projects I've done. And, I'm geeking out over it. Some people don't see it. Some people don't care. It's not their vibe. It's not their style. And that is totally fine, because I've always been a proponent of work with what you like looking at and what makes you excited, not necessarily what will sell. And so a combination of things are going in to create this pastel look for me in my collection, and I am getting them all in order so that I can really explain to people like what makes this animal look this way. And again, like focusing on eye color and then color stacking. And the thing that I think is so much fun is lily white within this project, because I'm seeing multiple different tones of white color on white. So you see a variation of, this highlighter to tangerine to orange to peach, like a pink color. And then on top of that, you've got these crazy pastel purple blue eyes. And I don't have anything in my collection from like the original hypo lines that were defined. And I can't say that I 100% agree with the eye color going hand in hand with hypo, because I haven't navigated that and I haven't brought any of the hypo animals into my collection. But I'm denoting and figuring out within my collection where I'm getting the eye color effects from based off of what I know for myself. And I don't have it fully nailed down yet, but I feel like I'm pretty darn close to it. But there's 3 different eye colors I'm trying to isolate, and it's that pastel-y, purpley gray color, the dark blue color, and then this like crystal clear silver eye. And I'm working through that because I think that eye color just is amazing in what it can do to make an animal more beautiful. So yeah, so that's like Project Pastel in a nutshell. I've been posting quite a bit of stuff about it recently, and I think that some people are like, what is it? I don't get it. And what is she trying to do, and what makes these animals different than, you know, something else? And yeah, the tones are washed out, but they're like stacked and I'm so excited about this project. it's so exciting to me. And I this season am mixing actual white into the project. I needed to take white out to get the color stacking that I wanted, but I wanted to bring white back in, not necessarily lily white, but white pattern, and see what things I can do to create even more exciting, you know, combinations with that. So that is exciting. And let's see, I think that's really my biggest like update on projects. Obviously scatter scale and isolating that gene is in everything that I'm doing. So yes, my Project Pastel has scatter scale in it 1000%. And that will probably just be, I would say in a year or two, my collection will only be scatter scale, but not there yet, getting there. So yeah, let's see what else. So personal life, like I said, there was a lot of drama, a lot of interesting things that transpired regarding the research that we did, and honestly it was really emotional for me. Like there was a lot of just ups and downs, wondering like what the point is of anything, and why I love science, and why I enjoy the topic of genetics and things like that. And over the past 6 months, I've just been evaluating kind of where I see myself going in the future. And I realized that research is important to me. Science is important to me, and learning and fostering, a space for educating people. Like I have so many passions regarding it, and I have farm breeding projects, I have gecko breeding projects, we have Asian water monitors, I've got all kinds of different things like reproducing here, and I just have really recognized my passion for just like reproduction and genetics and studying those things as a whole. And so with the support of my family, I have decided to go back and pursue vet school, which is a long process, but also very exciting. And, right now I don't know if you guys knew this, but if your science classes from your original college, or let's say you went to college. For me, I don't even know what year it is, 2004. So I went to college originally in 2007. Yeah, 2024. So I went to college in 2007. So almost 20 years ago, which is, I don't feel that old, except for I do feel that old. So let's just say like most of my intense science courses I took for my sports medicine stuff and my functional nutrition, they are over 10 years old. And according to, science school and how it all works, is that those science classes, if they're over 10 years old, they expire and you have to redo it. So that has been fun and interesting to understand, which I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because after that many years, I really am excited to brush up on a lot of things, and in different seasons of life you learn different things. And I know for myself, like I'm a completely different growth space right now and what I want to gather and learn from these classes. So first class this summer is animal physiology with a lab, which will be awesome. So I'm very excited about that. And then just a process of making sure I get all of those science classes that need to be repeated done for prerequisite courses, and then the application process for vet school starts, which I would love to just, have you guys on board for that journey. I don't know how long it's going to take or what will come up or what will come down, but I know having like a support group and a community that, encourages me and, is there with me is always helpful. So that I will elaborate more as I continue through the process. So for now, animal physiology, and I'm sure I'll have all kinds of cool stuff to show you guys in the process of that class. And yeah, I just am excited to recognize like where I want to go. Nothing's changing. I will still have my business, my collection, everything like that. I'll be devoting some extra time to school, which will be great. And, if I learn anything really interesting, I'll be sharing that with you guys. And I'm excited about it. So that is a new adventure for me. And then lastly, Dan and I have we've decided to have it might be starting monthly probably, but a meetup virtually where breeders, hobbyists, anybody who wants to learn more about the business of breeding, the entrepreneurial side, and just like the nitty gritty detail side of it. We just want to get a group together who wants to learn from each other. I don't know everything, and I am excited to learn from other people, and I want to have an open discussion about specific topics or certain topics that people want to talk through, but also have, the ability to have a group where people can meet people that might be like-minded or might have strengths that are different that they can lean into for mentorship or recommendations. I would love to be able to put together, resources for everybody that might be helpful when you're starting a business or when you're in a business. Simple resources like goal setting, also, simple resources for tracking lineage and different things that I think will be valuable for breeders and, working through kind of what standards, we want to uphold, and then really truly just be able to talk through things as a group or in a group setting that we can dive into tough subjects. We can dive into, things that people just really feel like they're struggling with when it comes to starting or operating a business in this hobby. I've owned 2 brick and mortar businesses now, and I feel like I have entrepreneurial background that I can help support people who are in the beginning or even the intermediate stages of starting a business, and then also hobbyists that aspire to potentially do that in the future, giving them resources and tools and realistic perspective on what that looks like, so that we don't have people that jump into the hobby and get burned out instantly and aren't necessarily breeding quality animals, or they are and they just are like, the market is terrible, I don't know what to do. So having resources and just information for any of those people I think will be awesome. So if you're interested in that, you can send me a private message. Our first meeting will be next week, which I'll be putting out there probably later today on my Instagram, so people can get the link for that. And it'll hopefully just continue to evolve. I mean, of course I have like goals and aspirations as far as what that group could be capable of, but to start with, just gonna kind of let it happen organically, which will be fine. So I hope you guys are all doing amazing. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, thoughts, feedback, any of it, please either send me a DM or, you can ask it here, any of those things. I realized I didn't even drink my coffee this whole time, but I will. So I love you all. I think y'all are amazing. I appreciate you sitting with me for 30 minutes and having a chat. And I hope that I can see or speak to you guys very soon. So have an awesome Friday. Have a great weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend. And I'll talk to you guys soon.